Hi, my name is Kevin. I'm the Typical Cripple. I'm with.
Sardine.
And we started a multi-part series on, just kind of going over this internet atheist view of how Democrats are contributing to, how they view their political crusade as a religious crusade.
Right.
And I think it's very important to point out that um, people that we live around have very different views and very different perspectives on basic values.
Yeah.
And our voting records reflect it. And I mean, there might be a civil war in our future. I'm not looking forward to it.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope not too. So, in the efforts to stem that and make it not an inevitability, I would like to say, please watch with us and discuss.
All right.
All right, and we're continuing on part two of Doug telling us how Democrats are. Let's go.
All right.
Stuff, but odds are I won't live long enough. But if you look at the history of our nation, and I say our because I've lived here for many years. If you look at the history of the United States, what happened on January 6th? Okay.
Back. Just to point something out, Doug's a Canadian.
Oh, I was wondering what he said about that. Our country, my country, or whatever.
Well, he lives in the United States as a guest worker,
Right.
but he's from Canada,
Canada.
and he doesn't vote in the United States.
Interesting.
But he lives amongst us, and I would say that he would be a trained observer of American culture without being subsumed by it.
Right. Okay. Continuing.
Yes.
You ready, Democrats? Get ready. Get your seatbelt on. What happened January 6th is nothing compared. Listen to my words, okay? Nothing compared to what this nation has been through in the past. In terms of threat to its democracy, to its nationhood, sovereignty, what happened on January 6th, let me rub that in hard, sort of talking about Ravi Zacharias. Let me rub that in hard. January 6th was nothing compared to what this nation's been through. You know, there's a movie called Amsterdam. Has anybody here seen it? It's a really quirky movie. I saw it with my kids. My daughter wanted to see it. I saw it actually in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And it stars Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, Rami Malek. I mean, it has a lot of huge stars in it. Taylor Swift is in it. And Robert De Niro. And in that movie, Robert De Niro plays the general, Gil Dillenbeck, which is apparently based in real life. And if you want to talk about points in history where the United States has come close to losing its democracy, you got to go maybe between World War I and World War II, or just after World War I, where generals are now talking to Nazi party members and other dictator types and trying to get influence on them. This is my opinion, but if you can see it, odds are it's not a real threat when it comes to democracy. If you can see it happening, odds are that's not the real threat. It's what you don't see is probably the real threat. What we saw on January 6th, we could see. It was clear. Probably not a real threat. What else did I want to say about the politics part? Yeah, so I really appreciate the people who were nice and kind and thoughtful, asked good questions. But it's hard, right? Especially in text form. It's really hard to have these types of conversations when you can't see people's faces. But for the people who just like, you can't imagine how someone can, let's say, you can agree with me on religion, and you can't imagine how are you not a Democrat? If that's your opinion and attitude, by the way, I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I'm not a cheerleader for either. True story. I can't even vote. I'm not a US citizen. But just the fact that you can't understand why a guy like me would even say stuff that might make the Democrats look bad-ish. If that is where you're coming from, you can't understand why someone could have different views. I mean, you're like a child. You're like these Christians who just think, oh, you just want to live in your sin and that's why you're an atheist. You're like them. Oh, you just blah, 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 so you're a Republican. People have legitimate differences in how they see the world and what they value. You gotta learn that. Why? Because that's what helps people communicate with each other. Like for Christians, for example,
Oh, no, continue a little bit.
they value this sense of living forever. The fear of death is high. They want to live forever. They want to see grandpa again. That is an understandable reason why they might want to believe that Christianity is true, right? And defend it to the...
So what do you think of that?
What specifically?
Where he was going on about people have differing values.
Right.
In that
Different
we-
perspectives on the world, different
Right.
world views.
Right. A Democrat would say to a Republican, oh, you're just being a Republican. Whereas a Christian callously talking about sinners, oh, they're just in love with their sin.
Mm.
Therefore, it's like the sin becomes personified. You just love this thing more than Jesus.
Hmm.
There may be other mitigating factors involved here. There may be issues of stuff going on that we now know as psychological, chemical reasons, things like this, where, in the past, when Jesus went to the Gerasenes, he healed the demoniac, sent spirits into pigs, and the pigs went into the Sea of Galilee. And what did the people do? Oh, we gotta get this guy out of here. He's gonna bankrupt us. They didn't care about the guy. What they cared about were their pigs. And the fact
Their
that...
pocketbooks.
Right. And so what I'm trying to say is that we got to be very careful about our motivations, about how and why we do things. And that we really parse this stuff out. I had a situation come up in the shower of all places, where it's like I got in an argument over the caregiver because I'm trying to sort something out, something going on in the shower, and she gets upset with me because, oh, I got the wrong order. What do you want? An applause? So she's in the wrong. I'm trying to sort it out. When are we going to do this whole thing? And she's like, oh, I forgot. Are you big me? And so she gets argumentative with me. I'm just like, I'm trying to help. I'm trying to make sure certain things get done in a certain order. And she's getting angry at me while How much more vulnerable of a situation can I be?
Is this the different worldviews kind of situation?
Well, it's not really a different worldview, but it's saying...
Different perspective.
Different perspective. She's coming at it from the point of view, I have a job to do. and I, as the object of the job, are getting in the way of her doing her job.
Yeah.
So, so we get into these mind traps
Yeah.
where it's like, I'm just doing my thing. And it's like, oh, are you doing this thing for the reason? Remember, going back to government programs, the government programs are supposed to do certain things, and they're not doing them.
Right.
But if we're so
The,
wrapped
the,
up
the
in,
people are getting in the way of the program doing its job.
yes,
If we're so wrapped up in what?
we get so wrapped up in our own minutia
Right.
that we don't see the forest for the tree.
Right.
And then and then we don't recognize that there's no more forest, no more shelter, no more electricity. We don't understand here in Washington State that dams equal electricity
Mm-hmm.
way more than these wind fans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yet we still put up the wind fans, and we want to take down the dams because of the poor little fishies. Really? You really want to take down that much infrastructure? And so what I'm trying to say, it comes to these things. We have to have these conversations or start revoking the right to vote. Because anyone who votes on emotion alone, that just votes for a team, whoever's the head of that team wins.
Yeah.
And they have real power. And if the people in power do nothing, like my state senator at one time, I went to her page to find out what she believes at the time. You just went to the Democratic page. What I believe, boom, Democrat.
Boilerplate. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're just like, what the heck? This is insincere.
Right.
This is just, I'm on your side. Okay, stamp. And you're like, we can't survive. I can't survive on a system like that.
Yeah.
And I'm in this system.
Right.
All right. Do you want to talk about what you said about Christians defending their faith based on their death anxiety?
I mean,
It's a motivation.
it is.
I
Well,
don't.
it's interesting because
I certainly don't want to go to hell, and I'm free to admit it.
yes, and that's actually something that was in my Christian walk or or journey or whatever.
You ever
So, and it's interesting because I was talking to a coworker, and Joe, he was we were talking about different things, and he was joking and saying, "Well, I'm just counting on a deathbed conversion," and I'm like, in a certain respect, I kind of had a similar idea, but then that was shattered because several times during this particular period of my life, I had several times. It wasn't necessarily near death, but I believed it was near death, and so I tried in those moments to get right with God, and I realized I couldn't figure it out. Like I had no pathway to get right with God in that moment.
You had no knowledge. You had no wisdom.
And so that was part of what drew me to start taking my Christianity seriously. I was brought up as a Christian, but kind of
You never took it over for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I started going more wayward and different things like that. But so death anxiety or fear of going to hell, judgment, I think that's built into
but as Christians, we know that, or we've considered that. We're like, if you're only concerned about your own self, you're not going to heaven, which is kind of counterintuitive.
Well, I think with unbelievers, there is a certain sense as well of how future generations will judge them. You know, so there's some. It's not quite the same, but
Well, remember what Jesus said about Tyre and Sidon. Sodom and Gomorrah will rise up and judge you.
greater knowledge, greater responsibility.
Well, Sodom and Gomorrah tried to rape a couple angels.
Yes.
Just a minor faux pas in God's economy. But if Jesus went into Tyre and Sidon and said, you know, the words that were spoken here today, Sodom and Gomorrah will judge you. That says something.
Yeah.
I don't know what transpired, but I'm kind of like, ooh, that'd be kind of curious to know what happened.
Yeah.
But we have to wrestle with these ideas. Yeah, I think we get so wrapped up in our nice little tight packages of our memes that we look at and we pull out and we treasure and wouldn't it be nice to be like, you know, be with Jesus. And we want to. It almost sounds like a romantic relationship. It makes me kind of ill.
This is kind of a rabbit trail, and so we probably should avoid it. But
You're going on a rabbit trail. This is ironic.
yeah, I know, right? I was just talking about trying to keep you off of rabbit trails, but he brought up. I don't know
He
the
Doug.
Yeah. He made a joke about Ravi Zacharias
Yes.
and rubbing it in or something, and
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that is a oddly specific joke that I actually get, and
Well-
also kind of dirty.
Well, what's funny
I don't
is-
know if we should explain it, but
Well-
if you know, you know.
Well, I'm sure everyone that watches me knows, but he did talk about Ravi Zacharias in a report that was released by some lead figures in Christianity
Yeah.
who talked about how the only way Ravi Zacharias got away with what he was doing was because people were putting Ravi Zacharias over God.
Yeah.
And when you start misaligning your highest truths,
Put
That's-
not your hope in princes.
that's your ultimate telos.
Yeah.
If you're thinking, you know, Ravi Zacharias is no better than, you know, like say somebody like Mao
Well, and
Zedong.
yeah, I think that where a lot of people do go wrong is they put way too much of their faith or whatever in a particular pastor, or
What about
their faith is too tied just to one person, one man that's not God,
or what about an institution?
or an institution, right? And then when that thing fails you because it's
Rob,
not
you-
God, then your faith can be really messed up or
Right,
ruined.
and then people can use that to come in and say, "Oh,
See,
yep." So if we're not listening to the atheists, to our critics, to the textual criticists,
Right.
we're setting ourselves open to being demolished in
Right.
an emotional way.
Or
I-
for our
I-
children to be demolished.
Oh, that's even worse.
Mm-hmm.
Could you? I mean, talking to your kids about young Earth creationists, and then they go to school and they get around a bunch of people that are old Earth or no
Yeah,
creation
yeah.
at all, and then they learn in college about how the moon was, you know, supposedly put up there, and then they come home and you're like, "Oh, hi, Mom, hi, Dad. You believe bullshit." And it's like, how do you argue against that?
You have to face it ahead of time. You can't throw them into that without preparing them.
Well, that's where I help what we're doing here. So, are you ready to continue?
Let's do it.
All right, we got another 10 minutes.
The hilt. Why is my chair squeaking? Can you guys hear that? What else did I want to say about that? Oh yeah. And then another reason why I made those videos is to just have interesting conversations. Like why 20? I think even the top 30 of cities or population. Why is that? All lean Democrat. All. Why is that? Well, people gave great answers. Well, it's because people want to get their lives better, and so they want to change their lives, and so they vote Democrat because of all these murders that they see, or maybe it's poverty or whatever. And then there goes another discussion on, well, why aren't things changing? I bet you if you go back decades, you'll find the same results. I don't know about this, but try it and let me know what you find out. I bet you're going to find the same results. Why? And then some people say, well, but Doug, all these blue cities that commit all these murders are in red states. So it's the red states causing these blue cities to exist. Yeah, it becomes a little funny. Yeah. So if murders, you're feeling on your high horse as a Democrat, just know that most murders in the United States are committed by Democrats. I'll go further. Most welfare recipients, probably Democrats. So if you're looking at the biggest crime ever, murder, and let's say a financial burden like welfare, both those things could view them as a drag to the United States economy and a drag to the United States morality. One could easily say that's in the Democrat camp. But of course, it's the Republicans that force the Democrats to do these things. I'm curious, does anybody disagree with me or question that that's not true? It could be false. I'm open to that idea. But it's at worst or at best, however you want to look at it, it's 50-50. It's down the middle. But on the positive side, let me say something positive about Democrats. You're more likely to be a financial burden to the economy as a Democrat. But on the flip side, a lot of billionaires, hundreds of millions of heirs in the United States are Democrats, paying lots of taxes, or at least some taxes. At best, you're.
So what do you think of that?
Which part?
Well, the part where you riled off the Democrats are most likely to kill people, most likely to be on welfare. I mean, true, false? Now,
He said there are also a lot of rich Democrats,
yes.
and to a great extent, it has become the party of the elites.
All right.
What?
It has, where there are elites and there are people that follow behind the elites.
Yeah.
Almost sounds like a divine council, doesn't it?
It does really make you wonder sometimes about voting, though.
Why?
Integrity voting. Like all these people who are reliant on welfare and stuff. Is that really the?
There is no integrity in voting.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like
I don't think.
all these people who are I mean, I know many of them have fallen on hard times or they have a disability or something, but a lot of them are just losers. And losers don't tend to be big voters. People who are just consumed with their own little things.
You're a fan of, are you a fan of Rick and Morty?
Yeah.
Jerry.
Yeah.
Remember when Jerry got eaten by the thing and Rick was going after him over, Jerry, the only reason why you're alive and you're in the family is that you got my daughter pregnant and she felt sorry for you. And then you come into my family and you become my problem because you had kids with my daughter. Now, how many times does that repeat itself in the United States? I mean, I had a girlfriend in grad school. Her family found out, and it it was like a dual motion of she found out, you know, she recognized I was more disabled than I let on. I mean, it's not like it's something I hide, but
She knew you in person, though, right? How?
yes. So the electric wheelchair kind of makes me look like a icon, so I kind of roll around at will. And so, therefore, people that don't look at me very closely kind of project that's Kevin.
Yeah.
And it kind of includes the wheelchair. Remember the Easter celebration at Mars Hill? Somebody comes over and goes, "So, are there nice young women in wheelchairs to date at Mars Hill Olympia?" And I said, "Dude, I'm not a species. We don't, you know, it's not like I'm propping me up on a trailer so I can inseminate my,
Yeah.
yeah. Where we at?
I'm trying to figure out where this is tying back.
Where's the time back?
Where it is tying back into what?
What I'm trying to say is that there's a projection. There's an assumption that projection is true. And then an action. And then when I respond to that, well, with the girlfriend, it was like, oh, I didn't recognize he was that disabled, which brings up a whole new set of concerns that if we were to marry would be very front and center in our lives.
Right.
That if she weren't to marry me, it would be sidestepped.
Right.
I am sidesteppable.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm thinking like
So you have an elite,
right.
and they're the essential ones.
Right.
The rest of us, not so much.
But,
Under the Republican
but
side,
they'll take your votes,
but they'll take our votes.
even if
And
those
when you-
votes are
And when you look
questionably collected.
and when you look at 10,000 or what was it, 2,000 mules?
Yeah. I didn't watch it, but I've heard about it.
What was the accusation? Caregivers,
Mm.
people that work for me in SEIU are colluding to take votes and change them or make votes.
Yeah, or just say, hey, I'm gonna help you fill this out
I
and
once had
show
a-
you who to vote for.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have a problem with that because I don't vote the way people want me to vote.
But as long as they fill it out correctly, that's
Yeah. But I'm not somebody easily manipulated either.
right. But there's
But we're finding out that when people seem to be on the same side, they seem to be amicable.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's another part to this video where the guy goes into conversation with the other guy. You want to save that for next week?
yeah. Let's bring this in for a landing.
All right. So, what's our overall thing that we're trying to show here? I think it's that people really don't know what they believe.
Mm-hmm.
They believe basis on what other people in their circle believe.
Right.
And therefore, once they are confronted with the belief system itself and a doubt, they immediately start scrambling or defending with emotions.
Right.
And that's the
Fight or flight.
fight or flight.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a good way to run your apologetics.
No, it shouldn't be a threat to your life, or that's the
Or
fight or
your
flight.
afterlife.
Right. That's the fight or flight response is when you feel that you're threatened in a vital
Right.
way.
And
so
with the Christian, it's like you're gonna throw me in hell.
Right.
That could be with the atheist Democrat. It's you're gonna make my life hell.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're dealing with very similar motivations here.
Yeah. All right.
Well, my name is Kevin. I'm the Atypical Cripple. I'm with,
Sardine.
and you have a nice night, and we'll see you on the next bounce.
Bazanga.